find two consecutive even whole numbers. There's a ton of words in there. Two consecutive even whole numbers. So we're going to have to take each one of those and figure out how it applies to our problem. The next thing that we've got is find two consecutive even whole numbers whose product is 224. Product is very often the word that's the easiest to navigate. So when I have the word product, what am I doing? Good. That word right there means multiply. Okay? It means multiply. Okay? So if I multiply two numbers together, okay, I don't know what those numbers are yet, but if I multiply them together, what am I going to get? 224. Okay, so we've dealt with this word right here. Okay, I'm going to have two numbers. They are consecutive, even, and whole. Consecutive, even, and whole. What does whole number mean? There's no decimals. Good. What else? No fractions. Good. There's one more thing. It's non-negative. Excellent. Okay, so we're not dealing with fractions, we're not dealing with decimals, and we're not dealing with negative numbers. So I'm going to write it's positive. Okay? It's positive. Now, we've dealt with the whole numbers and we've dealt with the product. I want us to talk about the word consecutive. Consecutive. So if I asked you for two consecutive numbers, two consecutive numbers.
Is it two numbers that one follows the other one, like 1 and 2 or 3 and 4?
Excellent. And you said, what do you do to it? You said, what do I add to it? Didn't you say plus 1? Oh, did you say plus 1? I'm hearing things. Okay then. Okay, it is. So 1 and 2 are consecutive. What else is consecutive? 100, 101. Okay?
They have to be even.
Well, yeah, we will get there. You are correct. They do have to be even. We're talking about the word consecutive right now. But you are correct. Okay? Yes?
I may have been saying, but I feel like I've heard in some math class that it's two numbers that are following with the same operation.
Say that one more time.
Like two numbers that are following with the same operation. So like if you were multiplying by 4 each time.
Okay, yeah, and then the next one would be a multiple of 4. Yes, okay? So in this situation right here, we're going to be doing that with an even. So we're talking about multiples. Good. So if I had the number 3, what would I add to it to get to the next consecutive number? What would I add to it? 1. Okay, so if I want the numbers to be consecutive and I've got the number 3, I'm going to add 1 to it to get 4. If I've got the number 7, what am I going to add to it to get the very next number? I'm going to add 1, so I'm going to get 8. So if I had the number x, what am I going to add to x to get the very next number after x? 1. Okay? So if I'm just talking about consecutive numbers, I've got x and I've got x plus 1. Okay? So that's what the word consecutive means. The numbers are following each other. But we are talking about even. Okay? So even isn't plus 1. So if I've got the number 4, what's the next consecutive even number? 6. If I've got the number 8, what's the next consecutive even number? If I've got the number 20, what's the next consecutive even number? 22. So if I've got 16, what do I add to 16 to get the next consecutive number? 2. So that's what the even means. Okay? It means that we're adding 2 to whatever this number is. Okay? So if my first number is x, what's my next number? X plus 2. Excellent. Okay? So I am multiplying x and x plus 2 together. Now, once we get to this point right here, we're in good shape. Once we get to x times x plus 2, we're in good shape. What do you need to do now? What do I need to do with that x?
Oh,
We're distributing. So the first thing that you're going to do is you're going to distribute that x. Do that right now. Distribute. When you distributed that x, you should have gotten x squared plus 2x. Now, before I can solve anything, what does it have to be equal to? 0. So what do I do next? Excellent. I'm subtracting 224 from both sides. So I have x squared plus 2x minus 224 equals 0. At this point, what do I do? What do I have to do with the x squared plus 2x minus 224? Find the product and the sum. Okay? I'm going to factor it. Factoring is not going away until after spring break. Just so you know. Factoring is not going away. Okay. X squared plus 2x minus 224. My product is negative. Okay, so I have a negative product. What's my sum? 2. Okay, so I am looking for one positive number and one negative number. Now, I will tell you that these numbers are just out of reach of what I would expect you to do on a test. In general, on a test, I expect you to be able to do anything up to 12 times 12, as well as anything like 20, 30, 40, 50, and 15. But like 14s and 13s and 16s and all that kind of stuff, I'm not going to ask for that on a test because you don't have a calculator. Okay? But just be aware that sometimes on your homework you do get numbers that are outside of that. And this is one of those. So I want you to look at the numbers 16 and 14, and I want you to determine which one of those is going to be positive and which one of those is going to be negative. 16 and 14. And like I said, 16 and 14 are really outside the realm.
With the 16 positive?
Okay? Why?
Because your sum is positive.
Excellent. You are absolutely right. The 16 would be positive because the sum is positive. So the number with the larger absolute value is going to be positive. In this situation, that's what a positive sum means. Larger absolute value is positive. Okay? Okay. So now we've got x plus 16 and x minus 14. X plus 16 and x minus 14. Okay? Now I set each one of those equal to 0. So x equals negative 16 and x equals positive 14. Now, this word right here tells us something about my answer. What does it tell me? It has to be positive. It actually does not tell me it's wrong. It just tells me I need to throw one of them out. And throwing one out is something that we're going to do a lot of today. Okay? So which one do I have to throw out? Good. I got to throw negative 16 out because it's negative. Sometimes it just says find two consecutive integers. If it had said integers, I would have been fine. But it doesn't. It said whole numbers. So you've got to go back and you've got to read that carefully. So my only x value is 14. So if x is 14, what's x plus 2? 16. 14 and 16. Is it okay if I go to the next screen? Somebody say, wait just a second. because we have to throw negative 16 out as an x value. Okay? So I'm not plugging negative 16 in for this x. Okay? The only thing I'm plugging in for this x is this right here, this positive 14. That's what I'm plugging in for this x. When I plug 14 in here, I add 2 to it and I get 16. Okay? So the reason that I got 14 and 16 is because x was 14 and x plus 2 was 16. Okay? The fact that this right here was negative 16, we still threw that out. That has nothing to do with it. Other than, 16 times 4 gives us our 224. Okay? That's a good question. Thank you. Yes, sir.
So you can get, say the wrong answer, but you just basically have to change it at the end. If it's a negative like that, you can just change it at the end.
I would not always count on that. Okay? Because we're going to have one at the very end where we throw negative 19 out completely. Negative 19 doesn't show up again at all. So I would not count on that second number always being the opposite of the negative. Okay, can I go to the next one? Okay, take a couple of minutes and write this down. Did I give you guys the roll? Oh, perfect. Okay. Okay, the perimeter of a rectangle is 32 inches. The area is 60 inches. Find the length and the width of the rectangle. Now, we've done problems similar to this, but it's given us a relationship between the sides. We don't have a relationship between the sides now, okay? What we have is the perimeter and we have the area. So what do we know? What can we start looking at here? Yes?
I feel like I'm missing, but
That's okay.
I feel like perimeter is plus and then area is multiplication. right?
You are absolutely correct.
Okay.
Good.
I was like,
Can you tell me what shape we're dealing with?
a rectangle.
Rectangle, okay? And then, so I'm going to go ahead and draw that rectangle. And remember, if you're totally lost, draw the picture, okay? And you're saying that if I've got, so if I've got length and width, if I add up all the sides, what does that give me? What are you telling me?
32.
Good, and that's my perimeter. Excellent. Okay, so if I've got length plus width, that is my perimeter, and we know that perimeter is 32. Now remember, I will give you these formulas. You just have to know what to do with them. So the perimeter formula is 2L plus 2W. Okay, so you're absolutely correct. Now, you said that for area, we multiply. What are we multiplying?
Square.
It's actually just L and W.
Oh.
You were thinking about a square, and then it would be side squared. But you're good. So it's length times width is what we're doing. And what is the area? 60 square inches. You were correct. 60 inches squared. Okay. So we don't have a relationship between the width and the length, but we do have both the perimeter and the area. Any idea what a reasonable thing to do next is? Any idea? Say that again.
I want to say division.
Okay, so what are we going to divide?
It's not a square, so I was like, I wanted to divide the perimeter, but it's didn't know to do that.
So you want to work on our perimeter. So we're going to work on our perimeter down here. So I have 2L plus 2W equals 32. So you want to divide all of that by 2. Is that right?
Oh, yes.
Why?
Well, if we, get rid of the 2 in front of the L and the W as well as, obviously divide by 32.
And make it smaller. Yeah, and anytime that we can divide everything by 2, that's a reasonable thing to do. So if you looked at that and was like, you know what, I'm going to divide all this by 2, and I'm going to get L plus W equals 16. That is a 100% reasonable thing to do. 100%. Now, could I solve for L or W? Yeah, which one do we want to solve for? You want to solve for which one? Length. Perfect. So length equals 16 minus W. Does everyone agree with that? Okay. Now, the way that this was done is 100% mathematically correct. We didn't mess up any law of mathematics. However, I just want to show you that students would typically say, okay, I'm going to take this and I'm going to solve for L. Okay? I'm going to take that and I'm going to solve for L. And they would have 2L plus 2W equals 32. They would subtract the 2W. And at this point is when they would divide. So then I would have L equals 16 minus W. Do I have exactly the same thing? Yes. So it doesn't matter which way you did it. We decided to solve for L a little bit later, and that's completely fine. They are both completely fine. Ultimately, what we need to know is that L is 16 minus W. So I am going to take 16 minus W, and I'm going to plug it in for that L right there. So I've got 16 minus W times W equals 60. Now we are going to do exactly the same thing that we did on the problem before. What are we going to do with that W? It's in a different spot, but we still do the same thing. What do? Distribute. Okay? Then after we distribute, what do we have to set everything equal to? Excellent. Do that right now. Distribute the W and set it equal to 0. Okay. Now, you may not have set it equal to 0 yet, and that's okay. Typically when we see that, our next inclination or our next habit that we have gotten into is that we move that 60 to the left, and we end up with negative 60. 100% fine, but the factoring is a little bit more challenging when we do that. Okay? If I added W squared to both sides, what happens to that negative W squared?
It'll become positive.
It becomes positive, and is a positive W squared easier to deal with? Yes. Okay? So instead of moving that 60 to the left, I'm going to move the W squared to the right. So I'm going to add W squared to both sides. Okay? So I end up with 16W equals W squared plus 60. I still have to have it equal to 0. So what's my next step? Subtract 16. Good job. So I'm subtracting 16W. Okay? And I end up with 0 equals W squared minus 16W plus 60. Okay? Okay, what's my product here? 60, and what's my sum? Negative 16.
Negative.
Yep, good. Because I have a positive product, my signs have to be what? The same. Either both negative or both positive. I've got a negative sum, so what does that tell me? Excellent. So what two numbers multiply together give me 60 and added together give me negative 16? Good. Negative 6, negative 10. Okay. We're going to set each one equal to 0. Now, do I need to throw either one of those out? Do I need to throw either one of them out? No, they're both positive. Okay? So because they are both positive, they are both fine. So if I label 6 as my width, then 10 is my length. Okay? Now, it would also be true if I labeled 10 as my width, what would be my length? 6. So it doesn't matter. Our picture doesn't look like 6 inches is the length and 10 inches is the width. But it's still correct. Basically, the rectangle is 6 inches by 10 inches, and that's your answer. And that's because we didn't have to throw either one of them out. Okay? If we had to throw one of them out, then we would have had to figure out the other side based on our equation. But we didn't have to. Okay? Now we're going to talk about triangles. Is it okay for me to go to the next screen? Okay. I'm going to give you a minute to write that down.
Anybody to get hurt, and I don't want any damage to property, but I love good thunderstorms. I love the rain, but I'm ready for it to maybe not rain quite so much.
I feel like I'm living in Florida. The rainfall has increased.
Or
in
Seattle.
the past 5 years. Or Seattle.
Yes.
Yeah, I've been telling my mom Seattle, but I thought,
But Florida it rains a lot in Florida.
Yeah. I'm like, good, good, I'll be in.
I know, right? It does not rain in Denver. Like, you get,
It's just snow.
it's snow or it's really intense thunderstorms. And those only last for like 6 weeks. So I really have missed the rain.
In Florida, it'll rain for like 5 minutes and then go away.
Especially in the summer, right?
Yeah, here it just like stays. It's
Yeah.
like going.
Keeps going and going, yeah. There's lots of arc memes on Facebook. Have you started building your ark?
And it's cold.
Yeah, the whole shift is crazy here. It can be so hot one day, and
Yeah.
the next day it's just like cold.
Yeah.
When is it, do you know when it's supposed to warm up for good?
I'm allowed to plant my flowers after tax day, April 15th. But I would say, and that just means that your freeze, statistically you don't usually get a freeze after the 15th. But I would say, pretty soon. And then the pollen comes. Yes,
First you get 5 months of winter.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You guys want 5 months of winter.
I don't know. I'm ready. Some of my flowers are already blooming.
I can just go back to Florida and get no months of winter.
You don't want to do that. Winter's fun. I have flip-flops on today. It's March. That's my motto. March flip-flops.
I've been hiking 2 days in a row.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, let's focus. Suppose that the length length of the other leg. Okay, so now we're getting back to a relationship between the different legs, or the different sides of a shape. If the length of the hypotenuse is 15 inches, find the lengths of the two legs. Now, this is another formula that I will give you, and this takes us back to our geometry days. The key word here is that we're dealing with a right triangle. A right triangle. And the right triangle has a special formula to help us find different things. Does anybody know what that is? That's okay.
Other than I know it's 90 degrees, so.
It's okay, it's 90 degrees right there. The side opposite the 90 degrees is known as our C, and it's called our hypotenuse. The legs are A and B. Yes. Do you remember what it was?
A squared plus B squared.
Good. And I will give you that formula. You just have to remember how to use it. A squared plus B squared equals C squared. That's the Pythagorean theorem.
This one never goes away.
And it never goes away.
It's easy.
Actually, you know what? I'm taking a calculus class for fun. I know people think I'm crazy. For fun, I really am. And I haven't. I can tell you right now, I have not used the Pythagorean theorem in calculus. So you know. So maybe it goes away. Okay. So my hypotenuse, which is the C value, what's that? What's the length? 15. Okay. Now, suppose that the length of one leg of the right triangle is 3 inches more. How do I write 3 inches more? I'm just talking about the 3 inches more, not anything else. Plus 3. Okay, that's plus 3. How do I represent then the length of the other leg? How do I represent that? We don't know the length of that other leg. X, good. Okay, now, here is where students get stuck. Here's my triangle. Here's my 15. Here is my x plus 3. That's how I got it. Then students are like, I don't know what the other leg is. But we defined the other leg. What did we define the other leg as? X. Okay? So the other leg we defined as x right there. So now I can plug it in to a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Okay? My a value is x. What's my b value? X plus 3. We have to FOIL that, so be careful how you do that. It's not x squared plus 9. It's not x squared plus 9. Okay, and then I have 15 squared. So what I want you to do right now, and I want you to do it off to the side, is I want you to do x plus 3 squared. Okay, you're foiling that off to the side. X plus 3 times x plus 3. Okay, and I am hoping you got x squared plus 6x plus 9. Okay, so x squared plus x squared plus 6x plus 9 equals 225. Okay, because 15 squared is 225. Okay. Now, there's two things that I need to do before I can solve this equation. What is one of the two things that I need to do? Good. I need to add x squared and x squared together because they're like terms. Good. So I'm going to have 2x squared. Okay, so what am I going to do after that? What else do I have to do? Say that again. Subtract. Yes, I've got to subtract because I have to have this side equal to 0. So I'm going to subtract negative 225. Okay, and when I do that, I get negative 216. Okay, So now what I'm dealing with is 2x squared plus 6x minus 216. Now, being super careful here is going to make your life a lot easier. When we first started talking about factoring, what did I always tell you to look at first? It's not least, but you're on the right track. Greatest common factor. Is there something I can pull out of all of this? Yes, 2. And when I pull that 2 out, it makes things a lot better. A lot better, okay? So I have 2 times x squared plus 3x minus 108. Now, factors of 108 is something that I expect you to know for a test. Okay? I do expect you to know factors of 108. Now, okay? I've got 1 positive and 1 negative. 1 positive and 1 negative because my product's negative. My larger absolute value is going to be positive because my sum is positive. Any ideas what numbers go into negative 108? 9 and? Good. 9 and 12. Good. So maybe brush up on your 12's multiplication table. Okay? Now, I go ahead and I put 2 equal to 0. Just to get in the habit of doing that, I think it's helpful for you to go ahead and do that because in pre-calculus you may have a variable there. But 2 equals 0 is untrue, so we have to throw it out. Okay? So then I've got x equals negative 12. What are we going to have to do with that x equals negative 12? We're going to have to throw it out too. Okay? Because we're talking about length. And we can't have the lengths of negatives. So I got to throw that out too. So then I've got x equals 9. So if x equals 9, what's x plus 3? Good. So this is 9, are we inches or centimeters? Inches. 9 inches. This is 15 inches. And this is 12 inches. Now, do not always assume that the opposite of what we throw out is going to be the length of the other side. Don't always assume that. Because in our very next problem, we're going to throw out a number and it doesn't show up again. Okay? So always focus on the number that's positive, then go back and add your 3 to it, or subtract your 1, or whatever your rules have told you to do. Don't assume that you're just going to have the opposite of that negative number. Okay? Now we've got one more. So I'm going to give you a minute or two to write it down. Okay. Here it is. Take a second to write it down, then we're going to start talking about it. If anybody missed a test, you could take it at 11. Then at 12, I've got to go take care of something for about 30 minutes. So if any of you in here need to take a test and you want to take it at 11, you can, because we're not having help session. Okay, I want to start talking about this because this kind of takes a few minutes for us to wrap our minds around. Okay, a rectangular garden. Right there, we have information that we can process. What's that? What can we process? We're talking about a rectangle. A rectangular garden has dimensions of 20 feet by 12 feet. We also have the dimensions of that rectangular garden. Okay, so we could find the area of that garden because we're told the dimensions of that garden. So the gardener wants a gravel path of equal width to be built around the garden. And that's where we're all like, oh, I don't process what this is asking. Okay, so we got the first part. We're like, okay, I got that. And then this gravel path. So this gravel path of equal width. So that means it's going to be the same on all the different sides. Think about a swimming pool. What do you have around a swimming pool? Usually. Say that again? Concrete. Okay? And typically that concrete is pretty much uniform, depending on how your backyard lays or the apartment pool, or do you have a pool here? We have a pool here, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So as you walk around it, typically it's uniform. So sometimes I think it's easier for us to visualize a pool. So think about a pool and then think about concrete around the pool. Okay? That's what we're talking about. Okay? So what we've got to determine is how wide that path can be. That's what we've got to determine, because I have enough gravel for 228 feet squared. So let's look at this. I'm talking about a rectangle. So this is my garden. Okay, here's my garden. There's my garden. Okay, I'm going to plant trees. I'm going to have pretty flowers, cabbage, cucumbers, whatever. Now, my garden, I know exactly how big my garden is. What is it? 20 by 12. So I have 20 feet here and 12 feet here. Now, I could figure out the area. How do I figure out the area of that? 20 times 12. Multiply length times the width. So I know what the area of this garden is. Okay, 20 times 12. Is that 240? Okay, and that's 240 feet squared. Now, this is where sometimes we get slightly confused. Okay? A gravel path of equal width. We don't know what that width is, but a gravel path of equal width is to be built around the garden. How wide can the path be if there is enough gravel for 228 feet squared? So we have a limited amount of gravel. Okay? So this is what I'm talking about right here. Now it's probably not perfect. That's not terrible, but it's definitely not perfect. So what I'm wanting to do is I'm wanting to put gravel around my garden. Okay, I want people to come and see all the beautiful things that I've done, but I don't want them stepping on my garden. So they have to walk on this gravel path. Okay, now I want to know, does the problem tell me the area of the gravel path? Am I told how much gravel is needed to cover a specific amount? Yes. Okay. So the area of just the gravel path is what? 228. Good. Feet squared. Thank you. Now, do I have enough information then to know what the total area is? Yes, I do. Okay. So my total area is going to be 240 feet squared plus 228 feet squared. Okay? The 240 is the area of the garden. The 228 is the area of the path. So if I add those two together, I get my area of this times this. Okay? So I know what my area of all of it is. And my area of all of it is, so my length times width, my large length times my large width is 468. Is 468. Now, students typically do okay to right here. Okay? Yes?
That was just adding the total area, right?
Correct.
Oh, okay.
I just added 240 plus 228. Did I make a mistake? Is it not 468?
Oh, no, it's not that.
Okay,
I just wanted to make sure you were
Yes.
adding.
Yes, I was adding. Yes, ma'am. I was adding. Okay, so my length times my width is 468. Now, if you get to this point, you have to figure out how to represent the length and the width of this rectangle. Now, we are told a gravel path of equal width. We don't know what that width is, but what we do know is that it's equal. Okay? So, this area right here, or this length really, all of that is the same. So I have an X there, I have an X here, an X here, and an X here. So I'm going to focus on this part down here. Do you see where I am? Can you see? Woo, right here? That's what I'm focusing on, my bottom. Okay, that's what I want to focus on. My garden part of that is 20 feet. Okay? But, so I have my 20 feet right here. You see that I'm highlighting? So I've got my 20 feet right here. What do I have right here? And what do I have right here? So how many X's do I have? 2. Okay, I have an X on both sides of the garden. I have an X on both sides of the garden. So this length right here is 20 plus 2X. Here, so my yellow side, what is the length of my garden on my yellow side? 12. Then I have, what do I have right here? I have an X here and I have so how many X's do I have? 2. That's the hard part right there. The 12 plus 2X and the 20 plus 2X. That's the difficult part. Once I have that, I'm there. So I've got 20, or actually I'm going to rewrite that as 2X plus 20. Are you with me if I rewrite it as 2X plus 20? All I've done is I've reversed it. Okay, and then I've got 2X plus 12, and that's equal to 468. Now all we have is cleanup. Now we're going to clean it up together because the cleanup's not crazy easy, but now we just have to clean it up. It's all the stuff that we know how to do. I'm going to go to the next screen. So I have 2X plus 20 times 2X plus 12, and that equals my total area, which is 468. Okay, we're going to FOIL. 2X times 2X is 4X squared. 2X times 12 is 24X. 20 times 2X is 40X. 20 times 12 is 240. All I did was FOIL. That's all I did. Okay, I've got 2 things I'm going to do now. I'm combining my like terms in the middle, and I'm setting it equal to 0. Okay? So when I set it equal to 0, I get negative 228. Now, if you don't factor out the greatest common factor, you have a mess to deal with. Okay? Factor out your greatest common factor. Okay? What's my greatest common factor? Yes. So when I factor out that 4, things are much more pleasant. Okay? Students like for 57 to be prime. It is not prime. It is not prime. Okay?
That's not right.
57 is not prime. Okay? Anybody knows what goes into 57? 2 doesn't go into it because it's not even. Does 3 go into it? Yes.
Oh, okay, I was gonna.
How many times does 3 go into it? Yeah. Okay. If you don't know how many times 3 goes into it, 3 goes into 5 one time. 1 times 3 is 3. 5 minus 3. There we go. 3 times 19 is something that sometimes students miss. Okay. 4 does not equal 0. Then we have x equals negative 19. We have to throw that out, and then we have x equals 3. So our only answer here is 3 feet. 3 feet is our only answer because I have to throw out negative 19. Now, did you notice how negative or positive 19 didn't show up anywhere else? Okay, so don't always assume that the opposite of that negative is going to show up. So my final answer and the length of this gravel area is 3 feet. 3 feet. Okay, do I need to go back to the other slide for people?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, there you go. Have a fantastic day. I'll see you on Wednesday.